Madam President, distinguished members of the court, there are no signs that Syria intends to stop its actions or take the effective preventive measures that are required by its treaty obligations. Just over a year ago, in its September 2022 report, the Commission of Inquiry observed, and I quote, that the risk of being detained and subsequently ill-treated and tortured remained pervasive for many Syrians, end of quote. Since the filing of our application and request for provisional measures, the Commission of Inquiry has issued a conference paper on 10 July 2023, confirming that indeed, Syria had continued unabated in its commission of torture against its populace during the period between 1st January 2020 and 30 April 2023, confirming that indeed, the Commission of Inquiry then noted, and I quote, that torture and ill treatment remained a significant risk for those who live within government-controlled parts of Syria, including areas retaken in recent years, and for Syrian nationals abroad who return, end of quote. The July 2023 report updates and supplements its previous findings on detention in Syria, covering the period from 2011 to 2020. Together, the reports document a continuous, unchecked pattern of torture and other ill treatment attributable to Syria from 2011 onwards, and confirm that, if left unchecked, Syria will continue its violations. Indeed, since Canada and the Netherlands submitted their request for the indication of provisional measures on 8 June 2023, and during the 3-month delay to this hearing requested by Syria, there have been at least 15 deaths documented due to torture committed by Syria. In one reported incident, a 34-year-old man from the city of Jassim was arrested on July 7th of this year by Syrian state security agents in Daraa Governorate. He was taken to a government detention facility where he was tortured to death. His body was returned to his family the next day, bearing visible signs of torture. In addition to deaths due to torture, many Syrians have continued to suffer the physical and psychological consequences of torture and other ill treatment in the intervening period leading up to the convening of today's hearing. The Commission of Inquiry has highlighted the irreparable nature of the harm caused by the impact of torture and other ill treatment. The various forms of torture deployed by Syria result in a range of serious physical and mental harms. Documented physical harms have included impotency, miscarriages, chronic pain, broken teeth, and scars. Mental harms have included post-traumatic stress disorder, sleep disorders, problems focusing, substance abuse, flashbacks, and fear of leaving the home. Both have resulted in suicides among torture victims. The irreparable harm resulting from sexual and gender-based violence is aggravated by the stigma associated with victims of these heinous acts, which can lead to them being ostracized within their communities. The stigma experienced by female victims and survivors is particularly severe and can affect them for life. While some of these harms have the potential to be addressed through long-term treatment and rehabilitation, this would require a substantial investment by Syria, which is simply not taking place. And unfortunately, the vast majority of these harms are indeed irreparable. For those that have lost their lives, whether as a direct result of torture and other ill treatment, or as a result of the physical or mental trauma experienced, this constitutes the ultimate irreparable harm, one that Syria continues to cause to this day. Syria also continues to cause irreparable harm in its use of the death penalty. While the use of the death penalty is not in and of itself prohibited under the Convention Against Torture, some of the crimes for which detainees have been convicted on the basis of confessions made under torture are subject to the death penalty within Syria. In an extensive report documenting this practice, the Syrian Network for Human Rights, a non-governmental organization, has noted that accusations of crimes subject to the death penalty in Syria have, and I quote, been leveled in a widespread and indiscriminate manner by the regime's security agencies against thousands of detainees and forcibly disappeared persons, with no grounds except for interrogation records containing confessions extracted under the duress of torture, end of quote. The Commission of Inquiry also highlights this use of torture and other ill treatment by Syria to extract confessions of detainees' perceived opposition activities. Detainees are routinely forced to sign or fingerprint written confessions of crimes, often without even having the opportunity to read them. These extracted confessions have then been used to obtain convictions. The Syrian Network for Human Rights has gathered details of the public prosecution's reliance on confessions extracted under torture and has confirmation of dozens of detainees having been forced to appear in grotesque confession videos, which are also broadcast on official state media. One individual, identified only as Abdul Rahman D., was arrested by Syrian officials and subsequently tortured. To escape the torture and daily beatings, he falsely confessed to killing government officers and received a death sentence on the basis of this confession extracted under torture. It is urgent to ensure that the death penalty is not imposed when information has been obtained through torture. Persons who have received the death penalty due to false confessions obtained under torture could be subjected to the execution of their sentence at any moment between now and this court's decision on the merits of the case. There can be no question that the harm presented by the use of the death penalty is irreparable. The court has previously found it appropriate to indicate provisional measures in circumstances that are unstable and could rapidly change, and when there is ongoing tension without any overall settlement to the conflict. Similarly, it has granted provisional measures when incidents have occurred on various occasions leading to fatalities, injuries, and the displacement of local inhabitants. All of these elements are present in the current situation in Syria, and indeed, the use of torture has been referred to by the Commission of Inquiry as a hallmark of the conflict. The ubiquitous and recurring violations of the Convention Against Torture by Syria are, furthermore, taking place within the context of a protracted armed conflict that has endured for more than a decade. No real progress has been made towards the implementation of the roadmap outlined in United Nations Security Council Resolution 2254, adopted in 2015, to end the conflict, nor towards a broader resolution to the situation in Syria, including the need for accountability. The Commission of Inquiry has repeatedly reported on the continued insecurity in Syria, including in its most recent report of August 2023.